2 runs there defensively. That's 5 runs he's involved in that chapter.
Olsen skies one high and deep to right field toward the corner of Dell. Onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On he goes. Hit out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run from McCutcheon. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
All right, welcome in to this very latest edition of the Fantasy Live Baseball Show. And of course, I am your host, Kevin, and we are welcoming back Mr. Nick. Nick, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well, my friend. How are you?
We're doing great, and we missed you having you on the show, so we're glad to see you back. And, of course, joining as per usual, we have Vince down there, and, of course, he's out there, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, Vince? Out there on the social media doing his thing on the Sports Stove podcast. So how are we doing tonight, Vince?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm in the early stages of a new adventure, so we're going to be announcing that pretty soon. But
okay.
Staying busy and excited to be back after a great week last week talking injured people, talking healthy people tonight.
That's right. Yeah, we're doing a healthy thing tonight. There'll be one notable exception to that, which we'll get into in a minute. But before we start talking too much about anything tonight, we have to bring up our sponsor, of course, and that is the great company InTheClutch.com. And if you go there right after we get done on the show, you'll find tons of officially licensed materials on there. They got baseball, of course, but they also have football, basketball, hockey, all kinds of officially licensed merchandise over there. So get over to InTheClutch.com. Don't do it while we're on the show, but do it afterwards. And make sure you put in your code BellyUpFantasy to get your 10% off your entire order. So now that we've got that out of the way, I don't want to say out of the way because that's negative, but because we're glad to have In the Clutch with us right here. But first thing we're going to talk about tonight is the Blue Jays jettisoning Charlie Montoya this past week. And unlike some of these other teams that have gotten rid of their managers, they had a winning record when this occurred. And there's no better expert that we could reference to on this but Graham Wallace. He is the Blue Jays beat writer. And I put out to him what he thought about this, and he said, I don't think he was the problem, but it's fine. So that's the in-depth analysis we're looking for right there. So Nick, what do you think about the Blue Jays? Because they just got done playing your Phillies this past week. And so what do you think this does for them, if anything?
Well, first thing, one of them played. Out of the 2 teams, one team actually played that series, and it wasn't the Phillies. So let's just start with that.
Okay.
I looked up his record. I mean, they were on kind of a skid, but they were in playoff contention. Since his firing, they won 3, which is usually the spark plug, and then overall he's 500 now.
Yeah,
again,
he's 500 as they come.
Right. So it just goes back to management. Okay, everyone gets blamed except for the people that put the team together. The players never get blamed. Okay, but the manager or the coaches always do. If the pitching staff isn't working right, well, we fire the pitching coach. So unfortunately he was the fall guy. What you said earlier about what Graham Wallace said, I know that firsthand from being an Eagles fan. They said that Doug Peterson didn't deserve to get fired, but we're going to do it anyway, which is like all about, huh? So did he deserve to get fired? I don't think so. If you're in a playoff spot, you're sliding, yes, but you're still holding that spot. No, see if you can get out of it. Okay, yeah. At the time, you were fourth in your division. Now you're third. You got three games up. But were you doing that bad? And is John Schneider really going to turn the ball club around? Are they really going to vault the Yankees? They're pretty much going to make the playoffs anyhow, so they should have kept them. But my feeling is if you're in playoff contention, you ride it until the horse dies. Once you're out of playoff contention, then you can go.
So I think we have to make sure that we point out that this is not John Schneider from the good old boys that's taken over in Toronto, and the dad of Superman on what's that show when he was a teenager? Yeah. So what's that? Smallville. Okay. So that is not him. So since that's not him, I know absolutely nothing about the man. So I don't know what kind of coach or manager he's going to be. So Vince, what do you think about all of this?
Well, let's look at the roster real quick if we can.
Yes,
Bobichette, Vlad Guerrero, Espinal has been good. Springer, Matt Chapman, Gurriel, Kirk, who's all-star, Teoscar Hernandez. You got Tapia, who came over, Biggio, who's there as well. They bring in 3 pitchers this year with Manoah, Berrios, and Gausman. I don't think the general manager needs to be fired, as he's put together quite the roster. Now, did the coach deserve to be fired? I think you could argue against that. But, again, us being outsiders, not being in the locker room, not knowing how the players are responding, all that kind of stuff to him, maybe there was a situation where the players were kind of tuning him out. I don't know. But this is a team with high expectations, and they have zero shot of winning the East unless the Yankees
we're going to get into that in a minute too.
So there had to be change, because at this point, the way they're playing this year, they weren't going to win a World Series, but they have a roster that's capable of winning a World Series. So you got to get the most out of them. And a lot of times, something as simple as a manager change can provide that spark. And, like you said, they won 3 out of the 4 games since they fired him, and they've outscored opponents 18-8 since they fired him. Now, is that only because they fired him? No, I don't think so. But that being said, they've got a roster to win now, and they weren't playing like they were gonna win now. So they made a move, and I don't think we can fault them for that. At the end of the day, Montoya probably gets another job here in the near future, I would assume, next year or 2. But I think they did what they thought was going to spark the team, and so far it looks like maybe it's done just that.
Well, I think before we get too excited about what they've done in their last 4 games, we have to remember that they played the Kansas City Royals B team because they had no players they could take up to Canada. So we're not going to get too much into that, but they had 10 players they couldn't bring to Canada, which is by far the most of any team that's gone to Canada up till now. And so they had no one to put on the field. So I think maybe they saw that and said, hey, we're going to have a spark for this series. We cannot lose to the B Kansas City Royals. So let's make the move. And from that, you could say, okay, they got what they needed. I think they were looking for that spark you're talking about. And so they got it for a little bit. We'll see what happens the rest of the way. Their problem is they got the Yankees, Red Sox, Tampa in the same division.
Yeah,
that's their problem.
They don't have to win the division. Not now. At the beginning of the season,
they don't just get to the playoffs. Because as we saw last year with Atlanta, you get to the playoffs, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, they should beat out Tampa, and they should beat out Boston. That needs to be their goal now, is being second in the East, and I think clearly second in the East, because they're a better roster. The pitching.
It seems like they got 17 All-Stars on their team. So
they do, and I think deservedly, and to some, as far as a name, I guess, goes. But they've got 3 starting pitchers that are as good as, I would say, they're top 5 in what they should be, at least. those three pitchers. There's other teams with three pitchers as well that are great, but they've got really good starting pitching, or they should. They've got a lineup that is pretty well stacked and that they haven't performed well. But now it's the time, right? We get to the All-Star break. We're past halfway already, so it's the time to turn it up, turn on the jets, and get things rolling. But Kevin, you kind of rolled past this, and I don't think we should, the Canada situation, because there was a trade that didn't happen this week because a player wasn't vaccinated, and if they go to the playoffs and had to play in Toronto, he wouldn't be available for him. So I think it's a real thing to talk about without getting political. I think it's a real thing to talk about.
Yeah, we don't have to get political with this. It's Canada. They do what they want. It's their country. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've got no issue with the way they're running things with that. If that's what they want, then we got to play by their rule. That's just the way it is. You did
mention their pitching staff. Right now they are 19th in Major League Baseball with a team average of 4.02. You mentioned Boston. Boston is 17th with 3.94, and then Tampa Bay is 4th with 3.36. And
you can expect that out of Tampa Bay with they always put together a good pitching staff. You expect much better ERA from Toronto than that.
Yeah, and then of course you got the Yankees at third with 3.009. So they got the worst pitching staff in their division. So
you got all kinds of hitters in that division.
Yeah,
that's not going to cut it.
They better be able to do it with the bats and defense.
And the problem, though, those numbers are skewed in the sense that 3 guys are pitching decent, 2 guys are pitching horribly, and one of those guys that are pitching horribly is Berrios, who was supposed to be an ace this year, and he's got a 5.22 ERA.
Yeah,
Kikuchi's the other guy.
Sucking the life out of your team. That's it right there.
Kikuchi's the other guy at 5.12. Stripling's at 3.03. Manoah's at 2.28, and Gossman at 2.87. And Gossman, who had a crazy good year last year in San Francisco, he's not doing bad. So him and Manoah are kind of carrying the team right now. But the other guys, you've got to have solid pitching, especially in the East
That's
Division.
what I'm saying. Just to get you to the playoffs, and those 3 pitchers that you just named, Vince, can carry you through a playoff series.
They should be able to.
Should be able to. So, so that's the situation up there. And so we're going to turn from the negative to the positive right now. And Dan, unfortunately, could not be with us tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out from Dan and myself, because I think that we too were responsible for the Seattle Mariners getting their act together, because a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how they were the most underachieving team. Thank you for the word, in baseball, which at the time they certainly were. They were behind the Texas Rangers in the standings.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be behind Texas Rangers, even though I'm wearing their jersey right this second, anywhere at any point. And that's exactly where they were. But here today, we're talking about the Seattle Mariners team that has won 14 straight games. And so they have found themselves right there in the thick of the AL wildcard. Unfortunately for them, they are in the division with Houston, and you win 14 straight and still 9 games back. There's not, you just concede the division right there. So, but the good news for them is they've won 14 in a row. At the All-Star break, they have their most wins since 2018. Their greatest win streak of all time was 15 in 2001, which we know was their magical season up until they hit New York Yankees. And so they've got 14. The Baltimore Orioles had won 10 straight. That was snapped on Friday. And so out of these 2 teams has been debated. Which of these 2 teams do you believe in more going forward this season? Maybe not so much after this season, but for this season, Vince, let's start with you. Which of these 2 teams do you believe in more? Is that Baltimore or Seattle?
Well, Seattle's got it easier. I mean, Baltimore's in a division. It's going to make it impossible for them to climb up and be something legitimate this year. But again, they're building, right? They've got young talent. And so I would say in the next 5 years, I like Baltimore. But this season, it's Seattle. They went out and got free agents. They went out and made moves. And even recently, by going out and signing Santana or trading for Carlos Santana, they've been doing what they need to do to climb back in. And they're in a division where they can easily be second in the division. And they're working their way towards that right now. Right now, they're in the hunt. Right now, they're in the playoffs if the season ended today, and the wild card at least. And
Right.
so I like them. I mean, they were almost there last year, right? And
they
then,
missed by the single game last year.
yeah, so that's the team that I would pick for this year for sure.
Yeah, you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, I can't. As much as I want to see Baltimore climb out of the basement, I don't believe that they're going to do that. I don't know. For some reason, I have a sentimental thing about Baltimore. I don't know. Maybe it's a mystique of
Sure.
Camden
They
Yards.
used to be a great team, right?
Yeah, maybe it's Camden Yards. I definitely like their uniforms. I don't like the way they run their team. They don't go out. They don't get any free agents, and of course, you know they're that typical team when their players get too expensive, they get rid of them. So yeah, it's got to be Seattle all the way. I don't think Baltimore, like I said, they have to go through a gauntlet, and whereas Seattle they just got to maintain and hold on. Don't lose any ground. Don't fall behind Texas because Texas is 17 and a half out. So if they can keep that lead, they should be fine. And it is nothing against Texas. It's just they just have an easier route to go through.
I mean, that's just the way things. You know, you've got a team that lost 14 straight earlier this year, and then you've got the Rangers, and they're all built for the future, and so and then you got Oakland, which is the sorriest excuse for Major League Baseball maybe in the history of mankind.
Is Billy Beane still running that team?
I believe he is.
Well, he should be fired.
Billy Beane and his family might be the most people they get in that stadium all season long. So
he's not at Oakland anymore. He went.
Is he not? Okay, so
he's in Buffalo.
I don't want to break any news stories here or anything like that, but there's more people in this house right here than they get in Oakland A's game. And so the whole thing.
Are you sure about that?
I've been to Oakland. I've been to that stadium. I can attest from my own personal, what I've seen. That is the biggest trash can maybe ever, as far as the stadium is concerned. So they've got all they have to worry about is beating Oakland and the Rangers and the Angels. And so if they don't make the playoffs, then shame on them. But they won 14 in a row, so yay for them. I am totally in agreement. Seattle Mariners this year. So going in, let's see. Tomorrow's we start the All-Star break, and so when we look at the standings, there's really nothing we can talk about as far as the AL East is concerned because it's the Yankees and whoever wins after them. Then you've got Minnesota leading Cleveland by 2, and the White Sox are at 500. And so the most disappointing team in baseball now transfers itself to the Chicago White Sox.
No.
And,
Los Angeles Angels still. The Angels have
the Angels, okay. But at least, Vince, the White Sox were in the playoffs a year ago.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that. And even though they beat Minnesota 2 out of 3 this weekend, so maybe that's some life, perhaps.
The White Sox.
So how do we see this division going?
The White Sox will win this division. There you go.
Okay, so
whatever day it is.
The key to this is you have to win this division to make the playoffs. No other team from the AL Central is making the playoffs.
Right. Yep. Yeah, but the White Sox will win this division. They'll finish at the top, and the Twins and the Guardians will be sitting on the outside looking in coming into the season. You
agree with that, Nick?
No, I'm still sticking with Cleveland. I'm still sticking with the Guardians. There's just something I can't put my finger on. There's just something about this team. I think that the White Sox, they take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. I have not seen them really take that next step to make it to the next level. I don't think Minnesota is going to hold on. I think Cleveland's going to win it by on their pitching by like 2 to 3 games. That's very, very slim.
Especially since Shane Bieber has looked like the Shane Bieber of old the last couple times out. Go ahead, Vince. I tell you, you want to jump in, so go ahead.
Well, we say all this now, but the reality is there's going to be trades. And there's potential for one of these teams, I think the Guardians as much as anybody, to lose some important players come trade deadline, closer to the trade deadline.
Which was a couple weeks out, by the way.
Yeah, they're close enough that maybe they won't go all in on selling. I mean, they're not going to get rid of Ramirez, but no. I think that pitching staff.
Everybody needs to get fired if they do that. Everybody.
Yeah, but like Clase, I think there's a chance he could get moved. The bullpen is what you really have to watch out for. Pieces getting picked from that. But then again, you got a starting pitcher that can come in and take a team over the hump. Someone might be willing to give up a good chunk for him. I don't know that the Guardians feel like they are close to competing for a World Series. And for that reason, I think they could be sellers here as we get up to the trade time. But if they don't sell, they're going to stay competitive, but they're not going to be New York Yankees, Houston Astros competitive. They're going to be the 6th seed competitive. And I'm not sure that they want to just stick at that point. Now, I could be completely wrong. And White Sox could do the same thing, right? White Sox could turn around and trade somebody. Minnesota doesn't seem like the organization that'll do that at this point. But we're going to see some big name pitchers move here before the trade deadline.
Yeah, because coming out of the break, Cleveland's got Chicago, Boston, Tampa, Arizona, and Houston, and then they play Detroit. So they have some very winnable series there to take them over to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got something to look forward to there. Over in the National League, you got in the NL East, you got the Mets, who went into Atlanta this past week and beat them 2 out of 3. So they're leading Atlanta by 2.5, and Nick, your Phillies by 8.5 games. And so after Atlanta lost 2 out of 3, Vince, are we still in their corner going to the second half?
I think I've officially landed on the side of the Mets, just because they're getting healthy and they've already been leading the entire year. The Braves are going to be good. I think the Braves make the playoffs, but I think the Mets win the division unless they go through another, sweeping injury-ish situation. And we'll talk about Juan Soto maybe later, but there's teams out there that they add a piece. Atlanta, if they go out and get a pitcher, if they go out and get another outfielder, they could be really dangerous. And actually, Adam Duvall's starting to play well again. So, I mean, there's signs that say Atlanta could be the winning team in the East. But at this point, considering they've led all season and they're getting healthy, I'm going to go with the Mets.
So you agree with that, Nick? Mets?
No, I'm going to still stick with Atlanta because I forget the acronym that Vince came up with the Mets when I said that the Cubs were a completely useless spot.
What's that? Found on roadside dead or
what did he say? Vince, what did you say?
I don't even remember now.
But it's like the Mets are the Mets, and I can't see them completely relying on the arm of Max Scherzer and the bat of Pete Alonso. I just can't see it. I don't think that those two guys will be able to sustain it long enough. And Snitker and the boys down there in Atlanta, they know how to come from behind. They know how to pull it out whenever they need it. So I'm just Atlanta's just like that. I hate to use the analogy. They're just that snake in the grass, just waiting to bide their time, and then they're just going to strike. So I say Atlanta. I hope Philly just hangs on and then they contend.
Well, Nick,
they're too far out.
If the season was over today, Philadelphia is in.
Yes, they are.
They are in.
Thank God for the expanded playoffs.
Do you see them keeping that wild card spot?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because I think
how many is it? 6 teams in the playoffs?
12.
Yeah. Well, 6 teams in each league. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Philly's outside looking in right now.
No, from what I've seen, the wild card, you've got Atlanta's first, San Diego's second, Philadelphia is third by
they didn't do a play-in game
point over the Cardinals at 5-3-3 and 5-3-2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
if anything, they'll do a play-in game between Philly and St. Louis.
and then you got the Giants that are right behind them.
Mhm.
yeah,
So there's definitely some interesting baseball to look forward to in the second half. And so I want to get over here to talk about your Milwaukee Brewers, Vince.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you. We have to move on to another topic.
Well, fortunately for them, they are still leading the division,
Ugh.
but it's only by a half a game right now. And I want to ask you, Vince, as the Milwaukee expert here, what in the world is going on with Josh Hader? That's the most disgusting display of the other night, right? He comes in and he gives up like 8 home runs or something. He has negative 21 fantasy points. Negative 21. I've never seen a relief pitcher get negative 21 fantasy points before ever.
Yeah.
What is his issue, and can he get it straight?
Yes, he can get it straight. All-Star break's coming at a perfect time for him, pulling up some things right now. In his last 6 games,
Yeah, he's been awful. Not
he's
including
given up.
Friday night.
He's given up at least 1 earned run in 5 of those 6 games. In his last 2 games, he gave up 3 earned runs in Minnesota, 6 in San Francisco. Of course, that was the grand slam there by Yastrzemski. So yeah, it's been a rough couple days for Josh.
Yeah. So and I bring this up, Vince, because as you know, you said during the draft, hey, Josh Hader, you shouldn't have taken him in that spot, but I did. Okay.
Yes, you did.
So, yes, I did. And sometimes you just have to fess up to what you did, and I did that. And so I think that Josh Hader immediately goes into the hold pattern. There's no way you're going to get rid of Josh Hader at this point of a season.
Right.
after a week.
Yeah. So, this is a guy that didn't give up an earned run until, what was it, June?
Right.
Something like that.
June.
And so we all know what he's capable, and he still leads the league in save.
Yeah. I just acquired Josh Hader in a league, by the way. Him and Aaron Nola. I acquired both of them.
What did you have to give up to get him?
Schwarber and Josh Turner.
Ooh.
Okay, Josh Turner, I wouldn't have cared about him, but Schwarber,
He's been playing well recently, but
he's been playing better.
Batting averages, I decided to go with it. I needed pitching, and so getting Nola and Hader, and then Hader goes the wrong direction, right? So it's my fault. But
so is that the reason why you went out and got him, and now he's sliding off the mountainside?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
The
like when I
option
turn
that
on the
Milwaukee
Dodgers
has,
and they immediately start losing.
yeah, the option that Milwaukee has though is unique because if they need to give him time to get his head straight,
They can put Williams right
move
in.
him to the setup role and put Devin Williams in as the closer. Very few teams have that option to have an all-star setup guy, and he's not an all-star this year. He should be, but he's not.
Yeah, definitely.
And flip him into the closer role if Hader needs the time to get his mind straight, because that happens, right? Closers, especially, they get the yips.
Closers, they're a unique bunch. They are.
Yeah, so I don't think that'll be the case, but the Brewers have the chance to do that. But we cannot talk about the Brewers and not talk about the balk call on Saturday night. What an absolute joke of a call there by the umpire to call a balk, score the winning run for the Giants. It was in the 8th inning, so they still had a chance to win in the 9th. But that ended up being the winning run, bases loaded, clearly not a balk. And yet they made the call, and I think I said on Twitter they need to check that umpire's bank account and see if there was a fan deposit right after the game, because it didn't make any sense.
And we're starting to get back into the position where we're talking about umpires way too much.
Yeah.
And, and so what are we going to do? You have to live with it. And so, Vince, do we see Milwaukee holding on and winning this division?
Yeah, I think so. Because I've thought a lot about that, and I've always had a lot of respect for St. Louis and what they can do this year. They've got a really good roster as well, and their pitching has been pretty decent as well. Mikolas has been really good here as of late. Flaherty's been injured, so they'll get him back at some point, ideally as well. Although when we talked about Flaherty last week, didn't sound great, but I I think Milwaukee still has the deepest roster. Still, the pitching staff for Milwaukee is just so deep, and they may even add a piece. We don't know. Again, that's another team to watch, adding a bullpen piece possibly. But they've got the best 3 back-end guys in Boxberger, Williams, and Hader. They've got 2 great pitchers with Woodruff and Burns, and Peralta is on pace to be back as early as possible once that 60-day is up for his IL. So they're going to get him back in plenty of time.
It seems like it's looking better for Peralta than when we talked last week about him.
Yeah, Council said today he's doing great. He's throwing off the mound.
So is that him or his twin, Vince, that you're talking to?
That was him. That was I talked directly, or I listened to him talk. I peeked my head into the conversation. But nonetheless, I think Milwaukee is still the deepest team in the Central, so I think they hold on. But St. Louis is going to be there. They're going to be within, I would say, 2 to 3 games come the end of the season. St. Louis will be right there nipping at the heels the entire way.
Okay, so over in the NL West, the Dodgers they've got a 9-game lead. 9.5, I'm sorry.
10. They're 10 now.
10 now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they did not play today, and I would like an explanation of why that is. They did not play. Them and the Angels did not play on a Sunday. I've never seen that kind of a thing. I don't have an explanation for it. But so we know the Dodgers are going to win their division. And do we see San Diego, Nick, after their collapse a year ago? Are we buying San Diego to hold their playoff position this year?
That depends. Is Tatis coming back anytime soon?
Well, that's another guy, Vince, that we had no answer for him last week, but it seems like now he's moving forward a little bit.
So if Toddy comes back, So if Toddy comes back, he might be, again, I'm going to use the term, that spark plug that gets him going. But they have still proven that they're the little brother to the Dodgers, and it's just you just don't again. I don't believe it until I see it. So I haven't seen it yet. So I'm not gonna say this is the year. Oh, now they got the swagger. No, I think again, it's just they got some psychological type of fold type issue where
maybe Nick, it's their. I don't know if you saw their uniforms, the City Connect uniforms that they have.
They can't be worse than Boston's.
Yes, they can. They can. They are absolutely.
I haven't seen them,
and that doesn't even include their regular, brown coffee looking, or the yellow.
I don't think it's uniforms. I just think it's
so maybe they're blinded by their uniforms and they just can't, get psychologically into it. I don't know.
No, I just think they just as a collective unit, they just don't have the confidence to go ahead and do it. They always seem to be fighting themselves at the end of the season. Like last year was Tatis and who was the other guy that I got into an argument with in the dugout?
Well, we have to narrow that down because it's been them and it was it Pham?
Yeah, no,
he was there last year. Could be you got multiple choices,
anyway,
A, B, C, or D, but
they just can't get out of their way. So until the Dodgers absolutely implode and the Padres they keep pace, then I just say that the Dodgers are just going to honestly just go run and hide.
The pitching for San Diego has just not been where it needs to be.
No, it's been
it hasn't been good, and Clevenger's trying to get back, and Snell's trying to make it back, and so Manaea has looked pretty good, but they just don't have enough pitching. I don't think they're not going to catch the Dodgers. So let's stop that fantasy.
It was Machado who I was saying. It
Machado?
was Tatis.
Okay, all right.
It was him and Machado were going at it like
the two stars of the team. Going at it in the dugout. So. All right.
You got to watch San Diego, Kevin, at the trade. Again, a team that needs to add.
They're a team that could make some moves. There definitely are.
Definitely.
And, we're
who's
talking
got
about
the most money
moves.
is what it is. Who's got the most money?
We could talk about the Dodgers, right? And we could talk about Juan Soto, I guess, at this point in time, because he rejected a $15 years, $440 million contract.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And so that pretty much, they had said earlier that they weren't going to trade Soto, and he's having a down season. So maybe now is not the best time to be looking into that, because he's going to the All-Star game. I don't think he deserves to be there this year. But if you're one of these other teams, how much do you pony up for this guy, Vince?
I mean, he's 23.
Yeah.
He's a superstar. He sells tickets. He's not had a great season, but I would be willing to spend a lot on Juan Soto. I was trying to think of people who wouldn't be interested in Juan Soto, and I don't think there's a team out there that wouldn't be interested. Now, some of them will not have
to
make the offer, but if you just say, hey, would you take Juan Soto? I think every team would say yes.
So if you're the Nationals, Nick, and like we said, he's having a down season, do you kind of hold maybe and see if he can come back and get back to the Juan Soto that finished second in the MVP race last year? Or do you look just to make a trade and get what you can get?
See, that depends. Does he want to be there? If he wants to be there,
if he did, he wouldn't reject that contract offer.
Okay, so now you know what you have to work with. He doesn't want to be there. So do be child and say, okay, fine, sit the rest of the year. We'll DFA you. And then we'll pay you to go away. Or do you try, because obviously they're last place now.
They have the worst record in all of baseball. So
okay,
we're talking
so
about
obviously they're not going to
wreck. Washington is a boat that's upside down.
Right.
Okay.
So they're not in a position to win right now anyway. So who could you offer that can give you the best deal? So then you're going to go teams with the most money. So then you're going to go teams like New York. Okay, they'll pony up for him unless they got too much.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Washington's not looking for teams with the most money. They're looking for teams with the best farm system.
Okay.
Which definitely shifts
resources
west to the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have a farm system. And that's one of the things that people don't see when they're talking about, the Dodgers spend more, they're spend happy, which is true, but they also developed their farm system. That's why they made these trades to get Mookie Betts and some of these other guys, because they do have a farm system. And so they can pony up some prospects that some of these other teams couldn't do. So I'm thinking, and he's from LA, I believe, right? Or he's got some connection to LA.
Not from LA.
Not from LA, because he's from Dominican, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, but so I have even before all this happened, I saw that he was connected to LA, and so if you're LA, there's no reason to kind of like bid against yourself, maybe. Right.
Well,
so it's going to be interesting to see, because like we said, the trade deadline is 2 weeks away now for this year. And I don't think that the Washington Nationals could probably get as best an offer as they could get in 2 weeks from now.
No.
So maybe they should hold and see what they can do in the offseason.
All right, so here's what I look at, right, with Juan Soto trades. You look at who's at the top and looking to win the World Series, and then you look on who's on the bubble trying to get over the hump. LA makes a lot of sense. They're the 5th-ranked farm system in the Major League Baseball right now. They have pieces. They could throw Cody Bellinger in, who's a name, who's, again, not had a good 2 seasons, but throw him in there as well, maybe another starter.
And he's relatively young.
Yeah.
For an NL MVP, he's not old.
Like a Gavin Lux or somebody like that maybe could be included as well with prospects. Then the team to watch, the number 2 farm system in Major League Baseball is the Seattle Mariners. And they're right there on that edge, right? And if they could throw 3 or 4 prospects over to Washington and get Juan Soto, and now all of a sudden Seattle is a legit team that not only to make the playoffs, but actually with what they've added in the offseason, both pitching and batting, Now all of a sudden they become a legit threat to win the American League once they get to the playoffs, to win the American League and represent the American League in the World Series.
Okay, so it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks here. And so let's switch over a little bit because, as we said, this is the All-Star break. And we have the Home Run Derby coming up tomorrow night. And the matchups were announced. You've got your man Schwarber, Nick, going up against the old man Pujols. You got the two-time defending champion Alonso going up against Acuna. Then you got Corey Seeger, who was a last-minute replacement, going up against Rodriguez. Then you got our man Soto, who we just got done talking about, going up against Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians. So, Nick, does your man Schwarber take home the prize?
I'm gonna go with a yes. I'm gonna go with a yes because I would like, honestly, I like to see Alonso because I like, even though he plays for the Mets, I like Alonso. I would like him to be a 3-time champ, but I don't think he's gonna do it. I just think it's just Schwarber's year. He's on a tear, and he's the hottest home run hitter going into the event. So yeah, I think Schwarber does take it.
All right, Vince, what do you think? Who takes the Home Run Derby?
Jose Ramirez gets my vote. He's the 5 seed going up against Soto. I think I always like to look at these underachieving teams with players in there. Cleveland, yes, they're second, and we get all that. But I go Jose Ramirez.
Philly's underachieving.
Yes, they are. That's
so. I'm going to go ahead and, you'd like to pick Alonso because that would be a story then, because nobody's ever won 3 straight, but that would be too rich of a story. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Too Hollywood.
Yeah, that's Hollywood, and it's in LA. All right. So, but I think that he's not going to do it 3 times in a row. And so I'm going to go outside the box. I'm going to say Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers takes it and upsets the field. So even though he's a shortstop, so there's the pick right there. And also because this is the All-Star break, and we could talk about this just a little bit because I want to make sure we get to some pickups and stuff like that. But is there any players, Nick, that you think after all these roster changes that are still not going that should be there?
I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to say Zack Wheeler should be going. He's the ace of the staff. Now he had a bad outing the other day, but he's had a hell of a season. So I don't think, and they want to expand the rosters to pitchers anyway, to put more pitchers on the roster. He should be an all-star. So I'm going to say Wheeler.
All right. So, Vince, who do you have as being, at this point, still the number 1 snub?
Did Dylan Cease make it in yet? I don't remember if he's – they've had so many –
He's pitching well enough to be there. There's no question about that.
He was snubbed originally. I don't know if he's been added or not. If he hasn't, I go Dylan Cease. Josh Bell is the other guy that got snubbed because they gave it to Soto. But I don't think he should be in above other guys. I just think above Soto. So I'll say Josh Bell in that sense. Dylan Cease is definitely deserving.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be a homer, as you say, Nick. Freddie Freeman of the Dodgers. And let me just say, he thinks he should be there. And this is what he did right after it was announced that he wasn't going. All right. Freddie Freeman in his last 4 games had 13 hits, 2 homers, 4 doubles, 5 runs scored, and 0 K. So he was sitting there saying, "Look at me, I should be in this game." And he personally wrecked St. Louis. And so that's where I'm going to go with that. And Freddie Freeman, you should be there. So, all right. So as this is a fantasy show, I'm going to go ahead and let's shift this over. Vince, who do you have as players that you want no part of? on your fantasy team
That I went no part of?
no part of, that you think should be dropped, and see you later. Don't ring my doorbell because I'm not home.
Whew. I wasn't ready for that one. I'm sorry, Kev.
Okay, so
come back to me.
Okay, so I'll start off with some drops, and I'm going to start off with Franmil Reyes of the Cleveland Guardians. I still don't understand how he is at where he is. He only has 39 fantasy points, and he's 2 for his last 16, so he is not heating up. He does not deserve to be on a fantasy roster at any point. He's still at about 50% owned. Come on, guys. He needs to go. And another guy that needs to go, and you hear about this guy, and they're talking about him get sent back to the Rangers. Please don't let it be true. And, of course, that is Joey Gallo. I am absolutely sick to my stomach of hearing about this guy. And he's still at 48%, right? He has 63 fantasy points, even though he hit a home run. But that home run means that he was 2 for his last 14. And he has just been awful, terrible. Even Brian Cashman had to make a statement about him. And so if the general manager is talking about, well, we're looking forward to seeing, the second half, maybe you need to drop him. Okay. And another young guy, Spencer Torkelson of the Detroit Tigers, he's only hitting 197. And he had a lot of people were talking about him, but he's just not there. And so I would kick him if you're still owning him. He was 3 for 4 in the game earlier, but he has 1 hit since then, and he strikes out too much. In our league, that is a death because each strikeout is a negative point. So, Nick, who do you have as players that you think should not be on a roster?
I'm going to go to one guy that was successful in the early part of the season, and that's Mackenzie Gore. Because Mackenzie Gore,
he's available in our league. I don't know about anybody else's league, but he's out there in our league.
In his last seven days, he's at a -18. Right now, he's in his last 7 days, he's 0-1 with only 2 Ks, 1 walk, and a 21.6 ERA.
Woo-hoo.
So and a 2.7 WHIP. So you do not need him.
Oh my goodness, that's got to be one of the highest WHIPs I've ever seen.
So you don't need him on your roster.
No.
Another guy, and I liked him when he was a Philly, is Nick Pavetta.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to talk about him myself. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
So Nick Pavetta, over the last 7 days, in 7.2 innings pitched, he's 0-1. He's got 9 Ks. His ERA is 15.2. His WHIP is 2.61, and he's got a -19 score.
I'm very well aware of what his negative score is. Trust me on that, Nick, because he's on my roster, and I was going to bring him up in a minute. But who else we got?
And the last guy I had, he was doing pretty well in the early part of the season as well. Brendan Donovan from the Cardinals. In his last 7 days, he's only got 1 hit in his last 9 at bats. He's only got 9 fantasy points in 7 days. So, but you can play him at all positions, but catcher and pitcher and short. So, but I would steer clear of him if someone's trying to trade you, Brendan Donovan.
Yeah, it doesn't help if you play all these positions if you can't get a base hit. So you had a chance to think about it, Vince. Do you have anybody you want to throw in there?
Sorry, I had to pull it up and it just wasn't ready for that one yet. Marcus Stroman. Don't want him on my team.
Yeah, he's been up and down, and he's like a yo-yo to me.
Yep. And then one we've talked about before, but he got a little hot there for a little bit. And now he's back to being what I told everybody he would be, first baseman from the Cincinnati Reds, Joey Votto. Don't want him on.
Another guy that people want to believe in, that I don't believe you and I, Vince, believed in him 1 second.
No.
Even before the season began. So
Right.
If you want to still believe in Joey Votto, you just go ahead and do that because you won't have to worry about Vince or I coming to get him.
That's right.
All right. So pickups. Maybe a happier subject on pickups. And I'm going to throw one guy out there to start off this segment, and that's Matt Carpenter of the New York Yankees. Now, has there been a guy who has snatched an opportunity like this guy has? And that's another thing that's a black eye for my Texas Rangers right here, okay? They had him and they dropped him. He goes over to the New York Yankees, and he's hitting home runs. He has gone crazy. 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, 6 runs scored. That's this week alone, but he hasn't been doing it just this week. He's been doing it for quite some time now, and his ownership percentage is still low, and you can go out and get him right now. He only plays second, but the thing that you also have to think about, on Thursday, the Yankees and Astros play a weird doubleheader, and so if you get him and put him in your lineup, that's 2 starts for you right there. So just a little insight for you on that. Let's see. Another guy that we could talk about is Josh Rojas of Arizona. He's a guy that plays just about every position that's known to man. And he's hitting 271. He can steal bases, and he can get hits. And so he's a guy that you can go out and get. A pitcher, Alex Cobb for the San Francisco Giants, is at 20% owned. And his last 3 starts, he has gone 7 and 6 and 6 innings. And in today's game, that's all you're looking for out of your starter is 7, 6, and 6. You'll take that every day of the week. So, Vince, who are you looking to pick up?
I'll give you 2 guys. I'll go homer first, Jace Peterson for Milwaukee. He's eligible in 4 positions right now, first, second, third, and outfield. He is playing very consistent right now for the Brewers. He's had 1 day off in the last, it looks like 15 games. So he's been playing very regularly. And recently he's been plus on his points as well. He's not crushing it. He's not getting double-digit points every game, but you're talking about this time in the season, you're looking to add guys to fill your injured list spots and things like that. Jace Peterson's the guy to look at there. Then the other guy is a pitcher who I have picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped and picked up again because no one else is picking him up, so I can add him every week when we do this. I won't be able to do it after this week because I'm telling you about it now. Johnny Cueto. In the last 6 games.
Vince, don't drop him because if you do, I'll come right up behind you and get him.
He has scored 112 points in the last 6 games. He's been very, very good. And against good teams, he scored 28 against Houston. He went 8 innings against Detroit the other night and got 30 points. And then Minnesota, he had 19 points in his last outing. So Johnny Cueto's a guy that's worth hanging on. And another reason why I think the White Sox come up and win the division because Cueto's pitching really well.
Okay, so Nick, who are you looking to get?
Okay, I got a couple guys for you. One is oddly enough, one guy out of Houston. He's a pitcher. You might have heard of him, Jake Odorizzi, or I call him Jake Over Easy.
Definitely a guy that you could recommend, sure.
Okay. Now, over the past 7 days, he's only got, he's only pitched 7 innings, but in those 7 innings, he scored 28 points for you. So that's a nice day. And to go back to your guy there, Kevin, Matt Carpenter on the 18th, yesterday against Boston, he scored 18 fantasy points. So keep that. Then we got some guy you might know. His name is Leoti Torres, right?
Tavares.
Torres. Okay, yeah. I think I messed up.
Yeah.
So
Tavares.
yeah. So Leoti, all he's done, okay, he's got 60 points on the year, but in the last 7 days, he scored 36 of them. So he's got 11 hits out of 23 at bats. He's got a home run, and then to add in that 36 points. And then I'm interested in Yandy Diaz from the Reyes. He's got 22 points over the last seven days, but he's got 8 RBIs and eight hits. So that's a nice streamer for you.
So yeah, he's a first and third baseman guy, right, Nick?
He is first and third. Yes, sir.
Okay, so all these guys that we're talking about, for the most part, have multiple position eligibility, and those are the kind of players that I like, especially when you got guys that are hurt, guys that are their teams are off, they're out of the lineup, that your lineup doesn't get shorted out. All right, so we're coming up on the end here, but one guy, or maybe one guy that you think is a hold, even though he's not doing too well. And you mentioned him a moment ago, Nick, and that is Nick Pavetta. And I am, like I said, I'm well aware that he has 3 negative starts in a row, but 2 of them were against the Yankees. So maybe we can give him a little leeway on that. And he was pitching extremely well before that. So I'm not going to jettison him just yet. And the example of that I see is a guy like Kyle Gibson, whom you're well aware of. He had 2 negative starts, but since has come out and got 24 and 21 fantasy points. And so I'm going to have to see more negative out of Nick Pavetta before I'm dropping him. And, of course, we talked about Josh Hader. You cannot drop him even though he gave up 8 home runs or whatever it was the other night. And so, Vince, who's a guy that you think people are looking to drop him that you would say, no, hold on?
I don't know about drop or not, but people who are frustrated with the guy. He missed 2 games due to back soreness. Then he came back and scored 1 point, 3 points, negative 1 point, and 1 point. He only has 8 home runs, and he's a former MVP of the Major League Baseball. Christian Yelich. And I'm not letting him go. I'm not trading him.
I'm not letting him go either. I have another Nick, another league. Nick. I'm not letting him go. I'm not letting him go either.
And the other guy that I know you have already dropped, Max Muncy. I'm holding on to him for dear life. He scored 6 points in 2 of his last 3 games. He's going to come around. A lot of people have let Max Muncy go in leagues, and the guys who are patient with him, it will pay off here after the All-Star break.
All right, Nick. So who's the player you're holding on to?
I got a guy out of Chicago named Patrick Wisdom. He's had a bad week.
He got a bad week, Nick. Bad.
Yeah. He got negative 4. He got negative 4. So, but overall, he's got 151. He plays first, third, and outfield. So you can plug him in those 3 places. But if you have him, he started off slow. I picked it up and I picked him up and I.
Yeah, he's been up and down all season.
I waited, and so I'm going to hold on to him. Like I said, he's a great filler in for me. Like I said, he plays those 3 positions, and he got a negative 4. Everybody's given, should be granted a bad week. So just if you got him, it'll get better. It can't go anywhere. Okay. It can't get any worse.
That's right. So, all right, and so with that being said, we have come to the end of another fabulous Belly Up baseball show, if I might say so myself. And so, Vince, we know you're out there 1,000 different places, but where specifically can we find you?
On Twitter and Instagram at Sports Stove, the podcast. Right now we're dropping 2 episodes a week. We'll go back to 3 once the NFL starts up. We're doing college football preview episodes on Sunday nights live. They drop Monday morning on podcast. And then Tuesday night live and Wednesday morning podcast, we're doing local hour. We're actually going through position previews for Eastern Kentucky University football. And we're also staying on top of the softball scandal going on there as well. So a lot of stuff happening there. And like I said, brand new stuff coming here in the near future as well, just kind of adding to everything that we're doing. So, yeah, look us up.
All right. So, Nick, where are you out there?
Okay. You can always find me on tssfantasy.com. All of our latest and greatest fantasy football news. We have, for the past about 4 weeks now, we've done a 32 for 32. We covered all the NFL teams. We had a Hall of Famer on, Leroy Butler. So this week we're coming up on the AFC West, and we're starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs. tomorrow night at 9 p.m.
There you go. And you can always find me at Kevin62 WILSEA out there on Twitter and also on Belly Up Fantasy website. I have an article that we're talking about pickups for the second half. Check it out right now. And so that's going to bring us to the end of our episode. And everybody have a great week and a great All-Star break. And we'll see you next time.